before I actually get into before we actually get into the stream today, I actually want to just talk about something. I'll probably turn this into like a YouTube video or something. Yeah, just let me. Okay. So something that's kind of been on my mind recently, and before I actually butcher the actual meaning of this word, let me actually look up the meaning of this word. Okay, yeah. Is this word duality, and the duality of being a competitive card game player, and just this kind of can go for a lot of things in life, not just card games. Obviously, just like MOBAs, shooters, and just like in the workplace, right? Is just these competing and sometimes opposite sides of ideology, or just ways to approach certain things. And the thing that sparked this, for me personally, was two situations. I'll go over both of them, and it'll become obvious like how this topic is going to lead into the wider discussion. So first, what sparked this was I have a local player who plays Bravo. You've seen him on the channel. His name's Patrick. I've been playing Axe Dorinthia at my locals for the last few weeks. I've been letting someone borrow my Ice Center deck. And for our young hero, it has not went very well. I don't think they've gotten a game on me. Yeah, I don't think they got a game on me, and the games have been close. And the reason why I use quotation marks is because um, for a lot of people that understand card games at a high level, a lot of times the life totals don't always tell the story of a game. Like I said, a game might be like 1 to 5, and you're like, oh, well, this is a good game of Flesh and Blood. But it's like, but if you actually like watch the game and you like kind of understand how the game was played out, the game was never that close. It just has the illusion of being close. And these are how the Bravo games have been. Um, I think if I have lost to the Bravo player, it's been like on a disgusting high roll. That like a lot of decks couldn't fight against, but like I'm just trying to genuinely remember if I've lost a game. I don't think I have. And like most of the games have been down to single digits, and like it just looks like wow, I just lucked out of that win, but like at no point did I feel like I was actually going to lose. Like I was down 15 life, 20 life on a lot of these games, and I'm just like, yeah, okay, that's what happens. Like I said, the issue with the decks is my deck doesn't put a lot of pressure on his deck. His deck can just freely just start smack me around with like a little no disruption. But I'm getting into a different discussion there. But after the Armory last week, the player in question asked me, how do I beat this deck? How do I beat Axe Dorinthia as Bravo? And I wanted to give him a very quick answer of, you're not really meant to. Like, because like honestly, my deck is fundamentally supposed to be pretty good into your deck. Now, obviously, I think the issue with Axe Strength is like most people just don't really play well into it. Mostly because it's a very new deck and it attacks on like a really weird axis where it's like it's not really disrupting the opponent. It's not really doing anything unfair. It's just making you block usually 1 to 2 less a turn, which like is pretty good value. Like me saying that's good value is like not like I'm not like this is not breaking news to anyone. But they were asking me how do I win this matchup, and I gave them some tips. I said, well, one is just uh, taking it slower and just like pitch checking against me. Because like I'm just sending damage, not a lot of disruption. I don't really have a lot of burst turns. I have a lot of turns that are like burst turns for me. Like me sending 8 is just like insane. Sending more than 10 is just like, whew, we're cooking now. But like realistically, like the best hand I could have is like red fell swing and Arsenal. Play red fell swing from Arsenal. Play red fell swing from hand. Sharpen Steel, Swing, Axe for like 12, 15, 19. Or like, well, if I have Tunic and that's a Cleave, 20? Like 20. And that is just like the nuts. And that's also just raw damage. Now, yes, it's half your life total, but that means I need a 5-card hand. Most of it being blue, because I don't play pots. Like, it's asking for a lot to go right. So, damage dealing, not amazing. Mid-range am pretty okay. I do actually run a lot of red, so I can get choked on mana sometimes. So it's like, there's not a lot to be worried about as the Bravo player, realistically. You can actually freely pitch stack into me. And it's one thing that players, including me sometimes, are very stubborn to do, is they don't want to pitch stack. They just don't want to do it. It's hard. And this is the thing I did try to explain to the player because they said, oh, I don't want to do that. It's just pitch stacking news. I'm like, okay, you have to understand. If pitch stacking was just so brainlessly easy, everybody would do it. Literally everybody would do it. It's very, very hard. But what I did try to like get them to understand, it's more of you can treat it more as a concept than a law. Like if you just want to intentionally pitch a few good cards, just so you have 4 solid turns back to back to back, and you can really just take over the game there. Literally, if you just pitch stack 4 amazing turns, and then you just keep your life total high, you just block out, or at least just get really good value blocks. Maybe just send hammer for 4 every other turn. You can probably hit that point where you can just start. You can actually block with your armor 1 turn, and then just start sending the armada at me. And now I'm just taking. Now you're just sending like 10 plus a turn. Like I'm talking about that's at minimum. I've probably went through a lot of my power cards. It's literally how the fundamental of pitch stacking and like control is. It's literally like some of the base fundamentals, right? Players said they didn't want to do that, and I was like, okay. Well, you could do something like Chroma Creef is an expert in, is just turn on, turn off, turn on, turn off, turn on, turn off. Like he'll go like hammer 1 turn, like he'll block a bunch of damage, hammer, arsenal like a really good card, then take some damage the next turn to send a big dominated attack that actually is impactful. Or it will be like a really good Zealous Belting turn. And then the next turn, turtle up, arsenal good card, hammer if you can. And then it was just this constant cycle, and I thought it was beautiful. So I recommend they do that. And like they really weren't a fan of that ideology either. So it came to a thing where I was just like, well, this player is just refusing to actually want to play optimally. This player is just refusing to do what is going to make them win. They're intentionally playing the game on hard mode for the sake of comfortability, right? And then the second example. Me. Now, unfortunately, I plan on going to Battlehorn Columbus. It's slowly an hour and a half away from me. It was going to be a really good time, but even though up until I didn't know I was able. Okay. Sorry, I didn't know I wasn't able to go until like 7, maybe 6 hours before I was actually supposed to wake up. It's just because I lost my wallet and keys and physically couldn't do anything about it. I had to refund my thing, unfortunately. But I was literally up all night just agonizing. Like, I literally had the 2 decks in front of me that I planned on possibly playing. I had Icelander and I had Axterenthia. And I was just agonizing over what to play. You know, on one hand, you have Icelander. The clear, like, one of the few best decks in the meta. A deck that I'm very familiar with. Not as comfortable with as I would like to be in this current meta, but a deck I've played a ton. Right? Versus Axterenthia. A deck that is just akin to my playstyle of how I enjoy playing Flesh and Blood. Also, can catch a lot of people off guard. Like, who's really been like, alright, we gotta get my sideboard plans for Axterenthia. Most people will literally have to, like, read my weapon like 6 times. Like, it's partially the surprise factor. And it was just like this push and pull in my head where I was like, well, do I play the meta deck? Do I play the deck that I just should play? Or do I play this other deck that's like fun and I'll have a really good time playing no matter what happens? Right? Because if I play Icelander, even though I enjoy Icelander, if I do bad with Icelander, it's just like, well, I took one of the best decks in the format. I took a deck that I have played a lot, and I did poorly. And it's like, what do I do? Do I want to give myself the best chance to win and take the better deck, or do I take the deck that I'm more comfortable with and like a little bit of surprise factor? And I was just I was legit going like this at like 12 o'clock at night, just like going like, what do I do? What do I do? I didn't know what to do. And it's kind of what also sparked this video. So where I'm going to tie these two in together is just the duality of being a competitive player. And where this will tie in with the first point, the Bravo player. Now, I could have did exactly what I did and just said, hey, well, here's how I think from my perspective how you can make my deck fundamentally weak. And this is how you can easily beat my deck with your deck just using a few simple concepts. But when they rejected it and didn't want to do that, and I understood that they didn't want to do that and they are just not going to do it, I should have pivoted my strategy. I'd been like, okay, how can we make your game plan as good as it can possibly be? Let's actually just step away from the Bravo versus Axtrente matchup. Let's just look at Bravo as a whole. This player likes to play Bravo very, very aggressive, very, very high rolly. And we give him a lot of crap for that. And he knows we will until the end of days. But instead of us saying, okay, you want to play Bravo this specific way. How can we make this way you want to play Bravo as the most optimal that can be? How can we make it the most optimal? Then, how do we understand, okay, what should your expectation be? Right? For example, when Odin was still in the meta, and I was playing Kano, if I didn't pitch stack versus the Odin, my chances of winning became very, very random and sparse. Like, pitch stacking wasn't free, but if you were a high-level Kano player and you understood how to pitch stack properly, and you were able to make it to your pitch stack, you usually just won, like regardless of what the Odin did. They could have double Wizard Spite, you could literally outmath it. It has been mathematically proven. I know some people that watch this video will say it's not. Remember, person that I'm referring to, we literally sat down with a piece of paper, gave you a perfect hand, literally the best possible hand you could have. We did the literal math of not even like the most pop-off combo, just like a mid combo. And you still died at full HP. You can claim whatever you want, and you'll probably say something when I come to the Army Thursday. You're arguing against math. You're a flat earther. Shut up. Okay? Now that the subtweet's out the way. Now that the subtweeting is out the way. God, I actually forgot the original point. Jesus Christ. Oh, God, I actually forgot the original point. I'm joking. Okay, because I forgot. Okay, but basically, instead, oh yeah, it was pitch stack. I could have played the most optimal way possible. Can over Zoom is set up a pitch stack, block a lot, keep my life total high, reach the pitch stack, kill the Odin. But a lot of the times, and we immediately did get false data because of this. I chose to be like, you know what? I'll like kind of pitch stack, but like if I just see something, I'm just gonna send it and see what happens. And a lot of times it got stuffed. Even when I knew it would get stuffed, I did it anyway. I'm literally the definition of a flat earther. I see evidence of the Earth being round, and I'm just like, well, you know what? That's really cool. But what if I just say it's not round? But like, you admit that all this evidence for it being round is correct, and I'm like, yeah. So the Earth is round, and I'm like, no, it's not round because because of like this. But that doesn't make any logical sense. And I'm like, yeah, but like it's round. It's not round though. It's definitely flat. That's literally how it was. And that's how it feels kind of like talking to the player about this. It's like you have a statistically proven thing to do against a control deck, but you don't want to do that because it's less comfortable for your play, how you like to play. You don't like it. And again, instead of us saying, okay, well, how can we make your version of Bravo the most optimal possible for your playstyle, we choose to make fun of him and shun him. I don't want to say shun. Shun's like a very strong word. We choose to basically just make a meme on him. Well, that's not helping anyone out. That's not helping us out. That's not helping him out. Clearly, he has akin to this certain playstyle. Clearly, he wants to do this. Why don't we just try and make it the best thing we can? Me, I'm a person that enjoys making anything a combo deck. I enjoy making anything a control deck. But like, no one ever looks at me and goes like, well, you're just playing it suboptimally, fuck you. People for me have been like, okay, well, what is your plan? Like, what do you think your matchup spread is? But I refuse to do that for another player. I refuse to be understanding to another player. And that's just not right on principle, and again, that's just not helping anyone out. If I would have invoked Control Dash, if I would have played like the Death Dealer Ice Lexi, if I would have just brought these to the table and everyone was just like, yep, stop playing that, you suck, don't ever talk to me again. Well, how far do you think I would have gotten? But people were like, sure, test it out. And we'll play a few games first to see what happens. And then here we are. And that's the duality I'm talking about. Is just learning to optimize your play style. For example, let's say you're playing a MOBA, right? And this specific example will be very, very understandable for a lot of people that play League of Legends. So the Korean style for the longest time has been the most optimal style. This would be like pitch stacking versus a control deck in TCG, right? It's following the Koreans are the ones that are pitch stacking. And you look at that, and like the average player will be like, well, I mean, the pro player says that's the best way, and like I'm seeing the evidence right in front of me. Let's just copy it. And then you have two ways this goes down. One, you're able to mimic it just fine, maybe not to the fullest extent, but you'll have some good success. Or B, you're gonna have a miserable time. You're constantly going to lose games, and you're not helping anyone out. Then you've seen like the Chinese League of Legends, the Chinese pros was just like, well, we can sit back and just do nothing for 30 minutes and get like a 90-10. Or we can make those Koreans feel uncomfortable, put them in very unique situations, and instead of doing what they expect us to do, why don't we just brawl and fight? Win all the time. Every last second. If we see a small window, let's go for it. And you see where things are now. Now, this is not to debate who's better, China or Korea, but this is just an example for a lot of people. Now, the most optimal way to play Bravo right now is a very defensive, fatigue-ish Bravo, kind of like a baby Odom, Wish.com Odom, right? But who's to say that this Odom player that wants to play very aggressive can't have their success if they just optimize their deck to enhance their strengths? You want to enhance your strength and minimize your weaknesses. Instead of just trying to flip-flop to just be like, I'm doing what everyone else is doing, yeah. Now, if you're a person that just has the ability to have multiple modes, oh, sure, go ahead. But if you're a player that is really, really good at honing one thing, enhance that. Take it to the moon. You have much more success that way. Charles Dunn said something similar to this, is where he doesn't like only play like fatigue and control decks, but like you just really get him. It's a very big strength of his. So he took a bet on himself, being like, well, I think I'm really good at fatigue and slash control. I have this really good fatigue control Briar deck, and we see the result. Did the same thing with Odin before, right? And me, if you put me in the same situation, yes, Icelander is just the better deck. And there was a world where I still would have ended up taking it. Right? Because again, it's not like I really enjoy playing Wizard. Right? I really enjoy playing Wizard. But what is my preferred style? Now, yes, Icelander is like a control combo deck. It is. It just is, right? But it's also like a tempo based deck with like really intricate decision making where like one tiny, and I mean tiny misstep has big ripple effects that you won't notice, and it's really hard to like detect something like that. But like the Fatigue Dorinthia deck is just like, dude, I'm playing this game blindfolded, and I'm just having a blast. Everything flows super freaking well for me. That would have been more up my alley. Is a very defensive deck. Now that was the deck I actually ended up uh, choosing. Obviously, again, I didn't get to actually fulfill the choice, but I was like, okay, instead of copying what other people are doing, instead of playing what everyone else is playing at like 70%, why didn't I play what I am really good at 90 or 100%? And that is something that I think a lot of you should learn and understand. Is unless you are just like one of the few people that can switch modes and just switch ideologies and just switch like how they can win a game on a dime. They're being very adaptive. Unless you can do that, instead of going with the win, why don't you enhance your strength? If you're a person that's really good at aggro, like let's say like Oldham was like at its like peak in its powers, right? Like Oldham was strictly the best deck, right? Like you're really good at just laying down the fucking like hammer on your opponent. No, okay, not Odom's hammer, but like you're really good at just like blitzing like aggro. Play Fi. Play Katsu. Play Shaman Briar. Enhance your strengths. Try to minimize your weaknesses. Now understand what you're giving up by not being as adaptive. So for me, right? Because I'm not good at aggro, and whenever aggro's good, I'll never be able to take advantage of aggro being good. I won't, because it is just a weakness for me for me to play that style. Now, if I have to play that role in a game, that's different. But playing that actual just like deck is a weakness for me. Now, can I go to my way and try to learn that playstyle? Absolutely, I can. And should I? Perhaps. I would like to be more adaptive. But being adaptive is not how everyone wins. Being as strong as you can individually is how people win. Now, hopefully, that kind of thing I was able to tie both of those together, and I really would just I want you guys to understand. Do not feel pressured to adapt. Being adaptive is good. No one's ever going to say, "Oh, well, I can just play everything in the meta." Oh God, oh, it was me. Everyone will be like, "Wow, you're really adaptive." But when you're just that really good at being a specialist and you hone in on it, you make it yours, and you make it the best possible it can be, you'll have that exact same success and possibly even more when you enhance your strengths. Ladies and gentlemen, hope you guys enjoyed this segment. Like I said, I probably will turn this into an actual video because I think that this is something a lot of people need to hear, and this is something I needed to discover myself. If you guys did enjoy this video, if it becomes a video, make sure you guys like, subscribe, comment down below what you guys want to see next. It's been your boy Siphon from Siphon TCG. Let's get back to the live stream, why don't we?